but there is something, and it is a sound, it is a feeling, it has words, and it is you. Listen for that voice. Ask yourself, what am I good at? What do I love? What do I want out of this one precious life? And listen for the answer. It will come. And then your task is to get better at listening to it. Because, oh, by the way, in your head is all the noise, the loud noise of judgment and expectations of family, community, media, society, peers, right? You got to get good at crowding out all that noise and listening to the sound of your own voice. And when you do that, then you give yourself courage to honor it.
Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. Here on the podcast, I share my experiences raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 16 to 26 and working with thousands more as a summer camp director over the past 3 decades. I'm the author of Happy Campers, and I frequently do workshops with parents, teachers, and summer camp professionals about social skills, connection, and happiness, topics I researched extensively for my master's in psychology. If you want tools for raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults, you've come to the right place. Hey, Sunshine Parenting listeners, and welcome to episode 171, which is first being released on Friday, April 23rd, 2021. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am to bring you my conversation with Julie Lythcott-Haims about her brand new book, Your Turn: How to Be an Adult. I absolutely love Julie's bio on her website. In huge words, it says, writer, speaker, human. At her heart, Julie believes in humans and is deeply interested in what gets in our way. She is the New York Times bestselling author of the anti-helicoptering parenting manifesto, How to Raise an Adult, which gave rise to her TED Talk, which has more than 5 million views. Her second book is the critically acclaimed and award-winning prose poetry memoir, Real American, which illustrates her experience as a Black and biracial person in white spaces. I loved Real American and reviewed it in 2020, and I highly encourage you to pick up that book as well. Her third book, Your Turn: How to Be an Adult, is the one we're talking about in our conversation today. Enjoy my conversation with Julie Lythcott-Haims. Julie Lythcott-Haims, welcome to the podcast.
Audrey, thank you so much for having me. Always a delight to be with you, my friend.
This is just a dream for me. I've been kind of like extra nervous for this interview because I have been fangirling on you since, well, I figured it out, at least 5 years. What year did How to Raise an Adult come out?
June 2015. So we're heading into the 6-year anniversary of that baby.
So obviously, every parent loved that book. I especially, it really resonated with me because of my work at camp and trying to help parents let go a bit and raise these awesome kids. And then I got to hear you speak at the American Camp Association conference. And then I was like high level fangirling on you. But I didn't know you personally back then. And now we've had a chance to actually get to know each other.
Yeah, I remember that photo you and I took back at the American Camping Association keynote. I loved being there because y'all deeply resonate with the stuff I write about. I was seeing as a college dean what y'all were seeing as camp directors, the extent to which childhood was changing. Parents were now letting their kids do less and encroaching on their skill development and their overall well-being. And so I remember the resonance of that conference. I remember meeting you, and yeah, it's been a delight to get to know you in this pandemic era. We've been part of this squad of parenting writers and authors, and it's just been a joy to get to know you and to learn more about your amazing community.
Well, thank you. Now, this is what we're talking about today, because honestly, I could talk to you about how to raise an adult, I could talk to you about Real American, and I'd actually love to have you back later when things settle down with your turn stuff to talk about that, because Real American has been very meaningful to me this past year, and I have highlighted. I've quoted you. It's been really an important part of my ongoing education in trying to be a white ally and all that. So that's a whole nother conversation. Today, we're going to talk about this amazing new book of yours, which is the perfect complement to How to Raise an Adult. So you have How to Raise an Adult, which is helping parents understand our role in launching our kids and setting them up for success. Now you've followed it up with this book, which is for the young adults. And it's amazing. Before I ask you some questions about it, tell me why you wrote the book and who you want to read it.
So this gets a little bit into craft, but I'll try to do it succinctly. My publisher asked me to write the book. They thought, let's get a sequel to the New York Times bestselling How to Raise an Adult. They said, you will write a sequel for parents of young adults who are struggling with launching. I said, hold up, I will write a sequel, but I'm not writing it for parents. The person who wrote How to Raise an Adult, which was always about ultimately the kids, like how can we parents get out of our kids' way so they can thrive? That author will write a book for the young adults, and the voice will have to be a close narrative, first-person narrative to them. So I got that straight, but then I couldn't write the darn thing for 3 years. I couldn't figure out how to be an authority on something I don't feel like I'm an authority on. And as I say in the intro, in the first 2 pages of the book, I say, so I dropped any pretense of authority and just decided to lead with vulnerability. I have been sad. I am not smarter than you. I have been sad, ashamed, scared, bewildered. I'm rooting for all of us. This book comes from that place. So ultimately, this is me with tremendous respect and compassion for young adults, millennials, and older Gen Zs who are the type that say, I'm scared to adult. I don't want to adult. Adulting is hard. This is me saying, yep, valid, and you gotta. So I'm here. I'm farther down this path. I'm going to shine a warm light back toward you to illuminate things that I have learned along my journey.
And boy, you do it so well in this book. And I just have a couple of backstory things. You are aware that I had one of my young adult friends read your book because I really felt you were so gracious to get me a copy ahead of time. And it arrived in, I don't know, January, February. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really excited for this book. And it's big and
it's enormous.
And I have like a backlog of 5 other books that I'm currently reviewing. What am I going to do? So my daughter's friend, Emma, was visiting. And I said, Emma, would you mind reading this book and then giving me your insights? So anyway, you know that I've never done this before, but I ended up having her on the podcast.
Yeah.
I was meaning to just talk to her ahead of time and just ask her like, okay, so what'd you think? You know, what are the goods and bads, whatever. Ended up being a great conversation and was awesome. So, but after our conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to listen to this book. So then I got the audio version and have been listening to you as I drive around. And Julie, I have to tell you, this book, I know it's supposed to be your turn for young adults, but yes, it is also for any person of any age in adulthood who is struggling with maybe thinking they want to make a change.
Yep.
Transition to whatever, a new career, a new lifestyle, a new whatever. And I have been gaining a lot from it. I believe that for many people like me, I'm in my 50s, you know, this pandemic has somewhat turned my life upside down, my business and all these things. And it has been really a time of reflection, right?
Yep.
And your book and the questions at the end of each chapter are such a good guide for really anybody who's struggling with that. What am I doing? What comes next? You know, and so I want to expand your audience. I do think it's phenomenal for young adults. Emma specifically thought that post-college kind of 20 something, trying some different things. What's going on? I'm a little bit lost. But I'm going to add to that group. You could be like you, a 38-year-old corporate lawyer wanting to make a transition. So your memoir parts of this book were what really stood out for me the most. So thank you for that, just the whole depth of what you're trying to come across. So talk about that big concept.
Okay, hold on. I got to say one thing, which is yes, 100%. I'm so glad you saw that was happening, because let's face it, adulting is just the phase of life between childhood and death. So if we make it out of childhood, we're all adulting. And yes, this is pitched for young adults who are in that transition phase, as Emma articulated. And I have had so many readers who are older say, I've changed my job because of this. I have left a relationship. I have committed to a relationship because of this. I have given myself more permission to do what I feel is right for me because of reading this book. So I am here going, yes, I love that.
Yay.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I'm like buzzing with excitement, because you give us permission to access our own voice. So I want you to talk a little bit about that whole idea that is something that is really hard in our culture, in our families. What is that whole idea around finding your own voice?
So I'm going to do a little factual correction as I answer this. You said I was a 38-year-old corporate lawyer. I was actually a 28-year-old corporate lawyer. I only lasted for 4 years in corporate law and then pivoted in my late 20s to university administration, early 30s. So it is chapter 5 of this book, which I call Stop Pleasing Others. They Have No Idea Who You Are. And it is chapter 5 of 13, Audrey, but it was the first chapter that I wrote. After 3 years of failing to write the book, how do I find my way into this enormous topic of leading your best life, basically? I realized, wait a minute, Julie, you were a dean working with students, helping them on their path. You always told them this story about your transition out of misery and corporate law into this work of academia. And isn't that something you can write about in a chapter? Turns out it was. And the hinge of that experience was, I'm miserable on a Saturday night. I'm well-paid corporate lawyer, mentored, praised. Life is looking successful, and I'm miserable, and I don't know why. I'm highly educated. I can't figure out how somebody who's been given so much is so miserable in her work, because I thought I had, quote unquote, done it all right. And so I now know often it is our misery that gives us permission to say, what would I do if it was just up to me? What would I do if nobody else mattered? You know, as our dear friend Christine Coe said, when she had me on her podcast, Edit Your Life, she said, Julie, my hair was falling out before I quit the corporate thing that I was on. Yeah, I had high blood pressure, right? And in that misery, we finally say to ourselves, you know what, this might not be the life I kind of had in mind. So the inner voice is, I think you can, whatever your belief system is, you can find room for inner voice in it. You might think it is your relationship with God that is giving you this information. You might feel it's the universe that's giving you this information. You might feel it's your gut instinct that's giving you this information. You might think it's some combination of your head and heart, but there is something. And it is a sound, it is a feeling, it has words, and it is you. And that voice is in you. And in this chapter and in this book more broadly, I am saying, listen for that voice. Listen for that voice. Ask yourself, what am I good at? What do I love? What do I want out of this one precious life? And listen for the answer. It will come. And then your task is to get better at listening to it. Because, oh, by the way, in your head is all the noise, the loud noise of judgment and expectations of family, community, media, society, peers, right? You got to get good at crowding out all that noise and listening to the sound of your own voice. And when you do that, then you give yourself courage to honor it.
I was just wanting to say, like, The Hallelujah chorus was going off in my head as you were just talking. And I was want to say, amen, sister, to all of the above. I think this is the life struggle of most humans, right?
Right.
Distinguishing between the noise and distraction of what others are telling us and all that, and what's inside of us, which is not the same as what's, in our friend or anybody else. And so it is really hard. So Julie, I'm going to share with you something pretty crazy. So after listening to your book, I decided to look back on some of my journals from my own early adulthood. And oh my gosh, I will just tell you, it makes me want to go back and give that young person a huge hug, because so many times I said almost what you were just saying, that I would say the one message was, I have everything going for me. I've had every opportunity. I'm so fortunate. Why am I so unhappy? I know I would say, like, in the same sentences, I would say, I know I'm loved unconditionally. And I know people really want me to do this, and it was just, I've really gotten back in touch with my own young adult from thinking about this. And to be honest, I had not remembered how difficult those years were for me and how unhappy I was a lot of the time, until I really got brave and said, you know what? I don't like this same stuff that my peers are doing and the jobs they want to do. It's not me. And until I really just said, I don't really care. Well, I still cared, but I don't care what other people are going to think about me or my job or whatever. This is where I'm meant to be. And that was the switch for me. And it's funny because you and I both went to Stanford, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I honestly, I mean, this is going to sound terrible, but I didn't have a great experience there. Okay. So that's just,
you're allowed to say that, Audrey.
Okay.
You're allowed to say that.
And it wasn't anything to the school. It was myself. It was where I was and some of the guidance that I needed at that time that I didn't have. And so this book and your guidance, please, let's get it into the hands of kids.
Amen.
And let's get them into the therapy that they need and into the, because we all need this permission, right? That even your beloved parents who love you so much and want the best for you do not know your inner voice.
Yes, I love that you shared that. First, I have so much compassion for your younger self, your current self, revisiting the younger self. I'm so glad you went there. I'm honored that you went on a journey with this book to go there. I'm delighted to be with you in that space. I'm so glad your listeners, your audience who trust you, are hearing you express that, because that gives them a little bit more permission to go into that vulnerable space, because someone they respect has gone there. That's what I'm trying to model on the page. So there's this amazing ripple effect that we can achieve by me being vulnerable. You're able to be vulnerable, and so on and so on. So it's beautiful.
So good. Okay, so if you were, giving your elevator pitch, you're in the elevator, whatever, what are some of the most important takeaways that you're wanting people who read your book to leave with? Just touch on a few of your favorite, besides that inner voice and listening to it.
Yeah, well, one is very external in that, but it is the most important thing that comes to mind for me. I've already told you I didn't feel like I was the authority on adulting. I frankly don't think anybody is. So I knew that my own narrative, my own memoir bits in this self-help book were not enough. I needed to assemble a group of humans through whom I could share the lessons. So I've got close to 36 other humans in these pages. They come from all walks of life by every sense of the word. And so through them, you learn what struggle persisting through struggle, developing resilience, developing agency, getting unstuck, giving yourself permission to lead the life you want in the face of obstacles like parents and society and so on. You hear the truth of these things through their stories. So my goal is that every reader will have cause to say, she had me in mind when she wrote this paragraph or this page or this chapter or this book. So that's, in other words, we all matter. And I am trying to offer something here that will speak to all humans somehow, which is a tall order, but I've tried and I've failed, but I have come some way toward that. I think the next thing that I would say is there is no path. Adulting does not come with a checklist. Childhood these days, in communities where listeners might be living, very much comes with a checklist. Go to this school, take these classes, get these grades, take these tests, do this activity, and so on, in order to please other people, the colleges, or in order to matter to our family. And adulting isn't that. Adulting is the far more terrifying, but also far more wondrous, wide open landscape. There are quite literally an infinite number of jobs one might do. And so that's daunting because there's so much opportunity and choice. And this may sound highly privileged, and I want to speak directly to those who might be poor, working class. You might be like, hey, lady, I just need to get a job. Yes. And you can still craft a path for yourself, particularly if you get access to education, community college, four-year college. If you can get access to education and a mentor or two, you can start to craft the life you dream for yourself. It's easier if you have more financial resources, to be sure, but it is accessible to everybody. So it's just this no checklist, no right track, not even a track at all. You do you. Pay attention to doing work you love. Pay attention to surrounding yourselves with humans with whom you feel a sense of safety and belonging, whether that's work community, neighborhood, who you have in your friend group, your chosen fam, your lover, your partner, right? These two choices around the humans I'm with and the work I do, those are massive, massive factors in the extent to which you're going to feel my life is meaningful and has purpose. And then the other two bits are body and mind. This book is hugely normalizing the struggle around mental health, around learning differences, around neurodivergence, around whatever I call it your situation might be. There isn't an asterisk like, oh, go to page 397 if you have depression. Like, no. Throughout the book, I'm acknowledging you might have social anxiety. This might be hard for you. You might be on the spectrum. This might be more of a challenge. You might have this unique affinity for this because you've got this, that, or the other. So that's another way in which I am, with respect, bringing all kinds of human experiences into these pages and taking care of our bodies and our minds. I mean, these are the vehicles that drive us forward. I think I say if life is a bicycle ride, your body and your mind are the wheels. But then I have a different metaphor, which is if life is a train ride, if life is a train ride, one rail is work. And if you just think work matters, you will go careening off into the howling darkness because you don't have your relationships in order. So I've got to settle on a metaphor here, but those four things: work, relationships, body, and mind. And then it's agency. Agency is I can do things. Resilience is I can cope when things go badly. Agency, resilience, and character are the three things that, you have access to and can cultivate and get better at, that no matter what's happening at work or in your relationships or to your body or to your mind, you have some control over these things. And with them in your toolkit, you can make your way forward.
So good. I don't know if you remember or if you ever heard David Brooks gave a commencement address somewhere, and he told, it's some like prestigious Ivy League school, and he tells them his best advice is the most important decision you'll ever make is who you spend it with, who you spend your life with. The most important life decision you'll ever make is who you spend it with. And I was like, that is so profound, because like you just articulated, even if you have a good job, you're not going to feel fulfilled without this community, without your people, your group, your people, whether that's a partner or a friend group or whatever. The other thing that came to mind as you were talking is, so many of our young adults counselors who come to camp, they're like college students, and they get to camp and the same thing that happened to me happens to them, which is for the first time in their life, they feel, I belong here. I feel relaxed here. I can be myself here. I do not feel any pressure for academics and all that stuff. And they therefore then can get a little stuck in that they want to come work for us. They want it all year round and we don't have any jobs, right? We're just a summer camp. We have a very few year-round people. And so what we have turned to saying to them is, okay, you've come here, you've been part of this community, you've experienced it, you've led kids through it. Now go out into the world and you find your people and create that same camp, belonging, connection, wherever you are. And that's been so important to me because, like you said, they don't care what job they worked in the kitchen, they were repairing things. These are people who were raking horse poop and they're like, this is my favorite place to be.
Yeah. Belonging is a very strong thread woven through my life and through much of my work. When I was the dean of freshmen and undergraduate advising at Stanford, I knew, having been a Black and biracial kid who was scared on that very campus a generation earlier, I knew, having learned about stereotype threat and internalized oppression, I knew that there were some students who were going to feel that though they had been admitted, they had not been let in. That admission is a decision made by a dean, but let in is belonging. Let in is that sense that I can ask for help. I'm not just grateful to be here, right? I can ask for help. I can insist that things be better. I can reach for my wildest dreams because I feel I belong. It's sort of like I have a vested right in the corporate sense. We have unvested stock and we have vested stock. That is like, you have it now. You can do something with it. Okay. It's that sense of, I do belong here and therefore I can kind of exercise my agency and get some stuff done. And so I would have random meetings. I said to admissions, tell me the names of any of the students who are coming in who have some kind of trauma or difficulty or marginalization in their background. I'm going to randomly reach out to them. And now they're all knowing, like if they were one of my randoms, they're like, oh my gosh, it wasn't random. Each year I would meet with about 100 students over the course of their freshman year. I never said I'm reaching out to you because, you might have had a difficult life experience. I just wanted them to know me and to feel that I was approachable and friendly in case something came up for them. I wanted the pathway to a resource, me, to already have been partially laid, which is not to say I was the only person on the campus they could go to. There were plenty of people doing this work. I was one of them. And my practice was to try to pave that pathway toward belonging for those who might be queer, might be first gen, might be of color, might be from a different country, might be poor, might be first gen, kids who might feel marginalized. I was trying to do my part to bring them into the center where they would feel a sense of belonging.
Oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful picture I just got of you gathering your 100 kids and just giving them that.
Well, one at a time.
That's what I mean. That's such a beautiful image. And so what we all need to be doing in our regular lives. I have to say something else funny that came from what you were talking about. Not funny, but I will just say this analogy. So, at camp, we'll get calls like, can you take my child who has X, Y, and Z going on? Just fill in the blank. ADHD, peanut allergy, recent divorce, diabetes, all these things, right? And so we've always been like, hey, if they're, if they feel comfortable and you all feel comfortable and our nurses and whatever can deal with it, come on in. And one of the things that's really struck me over the years, because now that it's been 35 years and like thousands and thousands of kids, is everybody has special needs. And I'm putting quotes in that every single person, whether you can see it on the outside or not, has something going on. And like you said, it could be trauma from their past.
Yep.
It could be anything at all. And we need to treat everybody, even the people who on the outside come across as, they've got it all together. Nobody has it all together. And I think that's what your book shows us, that even those people that you look to and think, oh, well, they really know what's going on because they're so sure that they are going to be a doctor and they're going to do this and whatever. Even those people,
Right.
have their moments.
Right. Right. And I want to be careful and acknowledge that some people have significant situations that we do think of as, in the more traditional sense, of special needs. And we're not trying to say everybody has the same struggle. We're not saying that. What we are saying is that there is no such thing as normal versus abnormal. It is normal in the human community to be contending with something that is a challenge for you, whether it's around your learning or how your body works or how your emotions regulate and all of that. There's a beautiful book I'm going to hold up by Jonathan Mooney called Normal Sucks, which kind of gets at this, how to live, learn, and thrive outside the lines. And his point is, like, lots of us are outside the lines. I blurbed it, and what I said was a candid, poignant, and insightful anthem to all of humanity. That was my way of saying we're all not normal. There is no, who wants to be normal? I mean, right? We've all got something.
Well, I think, what you reveal gets healed. And so as I would, like, going back to those journals I was writing, the things that I was struggling with, I was not alone. It was like weight struggles, eating stuff, like a lot of things going on that I am sure many people, if I had reached out or said, hey, I need some help or whatever, I could have found people who would be able to say either, oh yeah, I'm going through that too. And so being able to talk about ourselves and, like, even being able to say, hey, this is what I have going on. This is what is really going well. Here's where I'm struggling right now. It's amazing. At camp, again, doing the analogy, like, we had a camper, we have all kinds of campers. Sometimes they have external things. One time we had this gorgeous kid who had a massive head contraption for helping him hear. Okay. So you can see it right when you see the kid. And he, so lovely, we talked to his parents ahead of time. How do you want to address this? The kids are going to notice. We don't want it to be talking behind the backs or anything. And this kid was like, hey, you've probably noticed this thing. This is why I wear it, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to have to take it out when I go in the water. I'm going to need your help with this. It was just, I have watched this, Julie, so many times that when people say and just share, whether it's an inside thing or an external thing, if they say, hey, I'm really anxious, I get so scared of heights, then their team rallies around them and says, oh, I've had that too, or let me help you, let me cheer you. Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, what did you say? What you name gets attention?
What you reveal,
Claim.
What you reveal gets healed. So when you have hidden, those deepest, darkest, something is terribly wrong with me, when you are making a lot of effort to hide it and keep it a secret, you make it more powerful. And once you share it with someone else, you get that hug, that comfort. Hopefully that's what people need to be there for. But so we all have to realize that, you're right. Some people have much, much harder struggles, right? Bigger obstacles to overcome. And we all have something, and don't, even if yours doesn't feel like, I feel like mine didn't feel actually like big enough problems to get help, because I was very cognizant of I have everything I need. My life, I'm grateful for everything. And I have it so much better than everybody else. So who am I to be, getting help for my seemingly not that big of a deal?
Yeah, of course. We can live our lives feeling I don't have the right to speak up because my suffering isn't as great as that suffering over here. And I think the better path forward is to acknowledge my suffering isn't as large as the suffering over here. I want to acknowledge that and I want to share. This is something I struggle with. It's a way of providing context and also giving respect where it is due. And yet claiming your own situation and asking for help around it. And one of the things I say in the book is, having listened to a neuroscientist at Stanford at the Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education at Stanford. It's a beautiful thing. This professor said, we would all be astonished to know how much people want to help us. They just need to be asked. I have a neighbor right now whose partner has had a very scary diagnosis and a big surgery. And I reached out and said, can I make you dinner? And she said, yes, I would love that. And so tonight I've got a busy day, but I am going to zip out to the store and go get a chicken to roast and some vegetables and some potatoes. And I'm going to cook that. And I know I'm looking forward to that. I would have said to you 2 days ago, oh, Monday's so busy. I have so much. I'm just going to relax on the couch. Now, at the end of the day, I'm going to make dinner for somebody who's in a far more challenging situation than I'm in right now. And I know that's going to be good for her and her family. And I know it's also going to be good for me. Helping makes us feel good.
Oh my gosh. That's the whole kindness thing. That's the magic of it. It's
Right.
like this exponential thing when you,
Exactly.
do that. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. Well, I know we have to finish up. I really could talk to you all day. We're going to do it again. We'll do a real American talk. We'll do some other talks. The last thing I just want to kind of get your input on is, as I've read your book, talked to Emma, in my circle, I have a lot of young adults in my own family, their friends, and then all these counselors at camp. I really envision this book as being a great book club book for the young adults to read themselves and work through. Do you envision that? And how would you suggest young adults do that? What would be your suggested format?
I do. Thank you for that. I also have to say that just to the What You Reveal Gets Healed, in Real American, my memoir on race, which you're familiar with, I know, and I appreciate your love of that book. My naming finally what was so painful about my identity and what I'd been taught to feel about myself as a Black and biracial person, my naming it healed me from the pain of it. So I have lived that. I have walked that walk. And so I look forward to talking with you about that and more when we talk about that book. Okay. So yes, I definitely dream that young adults will gather themselves up post-pandemic or in your bubble where it's safe, read this book together, read it kind of a chapter a week. It's a big book. So give yourself time. I'm developing I've asked a friend to develop a specialty cocktails, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, beverages menu to accompany this. It's a lifestyle book. Let's read this book and let's have because as a young adult, you want to have people over and entertain, and you want to not just buy some beer or tea, and you want to have I made this, I made some effort. And so helping them be social around reading of this book is something I have in mind. I'm doing a talk at a local YMCA. 100 of those kids are getting a free copy of this book. Some people helping kids age out of foster care are going to give 30 copies to their kids. I'm hoping that pockets of folks who are working with young people are getting it into their hands, those who might not be able to afford it. And regardless of how they got it, whether they bought it or were given it, I'm hoping they will gather with their peers. And I'm also hoping they're going to flag some pages and say, we got to talk to our parents about page this, page that, and because I think I've also learned it is a portal that's opening conversations between young adults and parents. Kids are saying, you know what? I need to talk to you about what's on page 112. And I made that page number up, but it's sort of this disinterested third party rooting for the kid. It's facilitating conversation. It's pushing a door open to the conversation the young person wants to have with a parent, which, believe me, I just feel honored by, to the extent that is true for even one person. That's them taking me on their journey.
Yeah. One thing that I have been saying, and it's funny because I did it myself sort of unknowingly, is I think that it's good for adults and mentors who are not the parent to be the giver of the book, only because, as we know, and as even Emma articulated, even though some of the things in your book she had heard from her parents, hearing it from you it landed differently. So I even think I don't want to have that onus for some kids of, oh, my mom gave me this book.
Right,
She thinks I don't know how to adult, or whatever. So
right.
I was scheming with people. I think all of us with young adults is like,
Yeah.
oh, graduation present for your child. And
Right.
then you give it to my child.
Right. Yeah.
And like for me, again, I'm going to use my, my role at camp to encourage. And I actually have an older young adult who I'm going to see if she might want to be the mentor leader of the younger adults, because I think that they need to, again, just like this book is for them, they also need to spearhead the effort. I'm not going to lead a book club on this. This is them talking about it.
That's right. I want to be clear for everybody listening that this voice, the narrative voice, meaning the way the book sounds, is for the young person. I have summoned my deanly compassion and frankness and bluntness and vulnerability on the page. So no young adult is going to open this and feel judged. This is me empathizing with the struggle. So whereas my first book, How to Raise an Adult, is hard to give because it's like, hey, I think you're a helicopter parent. Read this, right? This book is not, hey, I think you're struggling with adulting. So read this. This book is, hey, adulting is hard. Here's a guide. It doesn't have to be caught up in any of your opinions about the person, and they will not feel judged that you have given it to them. That is a commitment I can make to everybody. I am not judging them. I am rooting for them, and they feel rooted for, and they're letting me know that.
Absolutely. And it's going to be something that sits on their bedside table and they read whatever chapter they need in that moment, and it varies. They might be stuck. Go to the stuck chapter, reread some of that. I think it's, as Emma said, she was a little daunted at the beginning. And then after reading it, she was like, I'm going to be going back to this thing a lot. And I want my roommates to all read it too. So anyway, fabulous book. Julie, you are I'm going to get teary. You are an amazing human and you have put so much good into the world. And I think about you as I read the book, each of those conversations with each of those kids at Stanford and each of those kids who helped you with this book, even the way you wrote this book, you were helping people even then. And it will now continue, forever. So thank you. Thank you for the work and all that you did to give all of us this gem, this amazing resource that will be, used forever.
Audrey, thank you. I'm trying not to cry as I listen to you. I'm grateful to you for seeing me as I am trying to show up in the world. I really appreciate that. I admire who you are in the world and all that you offer, not just through camp, but camp is huge, but through your writing and through the advice that you give and through the way you mentor others. So I'm really, truly honored to be with you and your listeners today. I'm grateful to everybody who's spent these many minutes listening. We're all just doing our best. One of the quotes at the end of the book is from Ram Dass, who says, we're all just walking each other home. And right, that is sort of what I try to live by. I'm trying to be of use to you. You're trying to be of use to me. That's what life is. And it feels pretty joyful and pretty magical and delicious when we can get to appreciating life at that granular level of, hey, someone helped me out today. Wow, I'm so fortunate. Hey, maybe I can turn around and help someone else out today. Wow. Yeah. So that's it. It's not, life is far less mysterious when you just take it at the human to human level. And we're all capable of that. Yeah. And we'd be a better human community if we could all just focus on that for even one day.
Amen. And honestly, I wish we had been friends when we were at Stanford. I was 1 year apart from you. Where were you when I needed you?
I know. Where were you?
Where were you? Because I was not, I was not where I needed to be. Put it that way. I was like really lost and I could have used you and we probably could have helped each other back then and maybe, but God bless the broken road, right? We all end up where we
exactly
eventually make it
now.
I know. And we'll be together in person at some point and then we'll do a Real American over coffee and I'll come up to your place or something. Okay. Perfect. Take such good care, Julie, and congratulations on this phenomenal book. Let's get it out to everyone out there.
I appreciate that, Audrey. Thanks to everyone for listening. Bye.
As always, you can find notes, links, and other resources related to today's conversation by visiting my website at sunshine-parenting.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for my email list so that you don't miss out on any of the great resources I have available for raising thriving kids. Hey listeners, if you enjoy the ideas I talk about with guests here on the podcast, then you might really enjoy my book, Happy Campers: 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults. In Happy Campers, I share research-backed strategies that I've used at my summer camp for more than 35 years and in my own family, raising my 5 kids. I cover ways you can create a happier, more connected, more positive family culture. And I specifically share ways you can help raise kids who are optimistic, kind, resilient, and are better at making and keeping friends. Here's an excerpt from Camp Secret number 8, Make It Cool to Be Kind. While our hackles will naturally rise and our protective instincts will kick into gear upon hearing about someone saying or doing something mean to our precious child, it serves us well to remember that, unfortunately, mean people will be a part of our child's world forever. Instead of jumping in to intervene and rescue our child from the pain, we usually serve them better by teaching them how to respond with compassion and curiosity. Launching a school-wide, adult-driven attack usually doesn't work because adults are notoriously bad at figuring out the root causes of meanness. Often, the kids perpetuating the cruelest acts are the ones viewed in a positive light by adults. Our kids' social lives are extremely complicated, and often the kid committing the unkind act is doing it at the urging of another kid. We need to encourage our kids to talk with us about negative social experiences, explore the possible whys together, and ensure that they don't get led down the road to meanness. I'm Audrey Monkey. Thank you for joining me for the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. Join me again for more conversations about raising kids who become thriving adults.